So I often say we don't just have small classes, but I like to say what's more important is we have the small school environment.
In this video, you'll meet Sean O'Donnell, who's the head of school at the Sacred Heart School of Montreal. In it, you'll hear him talk about the values that are key to life at the Sacred Heart, its history of trying to be as accessible as possible to any girl who would like an education at the Sacred Heart School of Montreal, as well as the religious tolerance that it tries to impart to its students. Okay, I'm here with Sean O'Donnell. He's the head of school at the Sacred Heart School of Montreal. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you, Carly?
I'm fine, thank you, thank you. So thanks for chatting with me. I wanted to ask you first off, if you can name the 3 things that you most love about your job.
Oh, about my job. Oh,
Mhm.
well, one thing I'm at an all-girls school, so one thing I do love is the energy, the vibrancy. It's a very, very lively place. Um, I love the colleagues I work with, my senior administrative team, and all my faculty and staff. I really, truly love the people, and I love the kids and their families. I mean, I love people. I'm a people person. I think that's why I've been in education for so long, and I'd say they're the 3 things I love the most about my school.
And so when you say the energy, what kind of culture do you want students in your school to have and participate in and create within themselves?
It's a great question. You've asked about culture because I'm a big believer in it and I talk about it often. The culture I want to give to our students is one of a very warm, caring, and supportive or nurturing environment. And then I want them to take that and then spread that kind of culture out to others, because community service and social justice is a big part of our school. It's a big part of our mission, and I just want there's academic rigor, there's got to be discipline and structure, but I always want it to be in a warm and caring and supportive environment, a positive environment. And that's what I try to establish, and that's what our faculty and staff establish with our girls.
Can you give an example of a program, or maybe you're thinking of a specific student who enacted or brought this value to life?
Oh, I could give you so many examples. Just we do a lot of things as teams, structured into the program when it comes to social justice. But a lot of the students go out on their own, even now during this COVID pandemic, and they're just out helping, trying to help seniors, helping people bag groceries. I just think you see it all the time. And there's always that kind of, they're not doing it because they have to, because they need the hours. They truly epitomize it. And I think it starts at home. And I'm proud to say at the school, we really develop that. So I think there's just so many examples.
So I think it's interesting that, from the top of this interview, that's really the first thing that you went to. Would you say that that's how big of a part of school life is this aspect?
It's huge, and I like to say, like our girls talk the talk, but they walk the walk. It's truly, it's part of the culture of the school. And again, I think it starts at home. I think it's all part of why parents look for a school like ours. We are part of a worldwide network, and all schools, over 150 around the world on 5 continents, share 5 common goals. And one of the goals is social justice, which impels to action. So it's ingrained in our mission, and it's something we don't have to really push too hard. People that come to our school, the kids that come, most of them are doing it from home, and the others learn it quickly, that it's a very big, important part of the school.
And can you talk about the 4 other values of the 5 that you mentioned?
Yes, one's a personal and active faith in God. So there's the Catholic component.
Mhm.
There's intellectual values. So respect for intellectual values. That's the academic component. Building community. That's kind of social justice, but it's kind of more social service. Building community as a Christian value, and in personal growth or development, and that's tr- trying to push every student to reach their full potential in a well-rounded, in a whole child type of picture.
And so you mentioned a little bit about the families that are drawn to Sacred Heart School. Can you tell us more about what those families look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a very socioeconomically diverse school, so a lot of our families are middle class families, both parents working. Um, Many of them are Catholic, but not all, and it's not a requirement. And so many of them come from close knit families with strong values. So they're looking for that kind of school, and we are a small school. So I often say we don't just have small classes, but I like to say what's more important is we have the small school environment, which is that no child falls through the cracks. We know every girl by their name. And so I think families that come to us are looking for that community feeling.
Can you explain a little bit how it works with the families that aren't Catholic, and how you work with them within the curriculum, and what that is there any tension there in school life?
No, not at all. And most of the students that are not Catholic are still coming from Christian backgrounds. So they have very similar values.
Mhm.
I mean, we do celebrate. We have liturgies. We have full school masses. We don't, though, ask anybody to do anything or follow any traditions that are not part of their own religion. But
Mhm.
we do have a lot of our masses are more like a community or a school celebration. Um, Day to day, we have a religion class, but in Quebec, there's our religion classes have now they're officially called ethics and religious culture. So we study all religions, and as they go up in the levels in high school, we're a high school only. Each level focuses on a different aspect of world religions. We do a lot of comparing and contrasting with the Catholic faith.
Mm.
So what we say is we teach our holistic religion course or ethics and religious culture course often from the Catholic perspective, but we it's very discussion oriented and group project oriented. So we really invite and encourage differing points of view, and I think it works really well. There's a real acceptance and a respect for each other's different religions and also ethnic backgrounds too, because we're culturally diverse as well.
Yeah, can you give an example of a project or something that would um, build those connections and build that kind of respect?
Yes, one of our classes, I believe it's the grade 10 class. They go year long and visit different places of worship all over the city of Montreal, from virtually every major religion. So they visit mosques and synagogues and Anglican churches, and they visit Catholic cathedrals, and they do a lot of comparing and contrasting. They look back on the historical beginnings, and what we hear and what they find over and over again is there's way more similarities and commonalities than there are differences. And so that's just one of the types of projects. And sometimes we bring the leaders, the religious and spiritual leaders of those different faiths into school to talk to a larger group of students about the Judaism or the Muslim religion, Islam, and it's the kind of thing we do on a regular basis, and it works well.
Right. And also you mentioned that the families come from a wide range of socioeconomic backgrounds. So
Yes.
what are the resources that are available for families who are of a different income level?
Yeah. Great question. We're constantly working. Our number one annual campaign goal is always bursaries. For a school like ours, I mean, I think it's important for all independent schools, but for ours, because we're not a big school, and a lot of our parents, we have small class sizes, so we don't have large economies of scale. So our fees are a challenge because we're constantly trying to keep them competitive, but we also need to raise them year after year to cover costs. So um, we have 22% forecasted for next year on bursaries, and usually the bursary ranges to about, the average bursary is about 50% of our fees. So we work very hard at that. A lot of our fundraising efforts, our focus is on bursaries, and it's supported by the whole school community. But we have to do every year we have to really do a good job at raising monies for our bursary program.
And you know, for a lot of families, the idea of private education may not even come to mind that it's a possibility. You know, if they're not, if they assume that they're not in a certain income level.
Right.
So where do you do any outreach to talk about the school anywhere? Are there any communities that you'd like to, you know, have more of in the school?
Oh, wow, great question. We try in within the city of Montreal to really reach out. We're also geographically diverse, so we have students coming from all over island and off island of
Mm.
Montreal. Some of our girls have more than a 1 hour commute one way. So we definitely try and look for culturally diverse communities, and we really, everything we do in all our marketing, we always try and stress the bursary program, and we always try and get the message out there. Please don't apply if you think your child's mission appropriate and you think we would be a good fit for your daughter. Don't let the fees be a deterrent. So we make sure we let people know we have a strong bursary program, and we hope that people will take advantage of it.
And you know, that idea of not having a young girl who wants to go to the school, not having those barriers up, goes back to the creation of the school itself. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. When the school was founded, our school in Montreal is 159 years old, so we're older than Canada. And the order was founded, the Sacred Heart Order, in the year 1800. So, and they focus on education. The goal at that time was to provide education to all girls, because girls just didn't have an opportunity at a good education, regardless of socioeconomic status. So most of the schools were in impoverished areas, and were really public schools. They were private, but there were no fees. The nuns ran the schools, and they were able to run them at no cost. And even our school in Montreal, in its origins, when it originally started in 1861, was geared more towards the common girl, just very, very low fees. And then as the fees went up, they actually ran, and I forget the name of it, and other Catholic schools have done this. They ran like two parallel schools where the the people that could afford it would pay the full fees, but they'd run a like almost a school right next door, where it was free and nobody paid, and the kids from the paying school had to help out at that other school. So they would run parallel schools. Now, things being what they are, the economy and stuff, our fees have gone on and grown over the years to cover the increased operating costs. But we're always mindful. We always say that any mission appropriate girl should always have access to a Sacred Heart education, regardless of their economic means. And we do have some students on full 100% bursaries, and some on smaller, and our average bursary overall is about 50%.
And if imagine the school as a person or a character in your mind,
Mhm.
what are some of the traits that they would have?
Oh, well, kindness, empathy, concern for others, fun. and all girls school is a fun place to be. I always say the girls dance like nobody's watching. It's their place, you know. Um, Character, it definitely would have strong values and moral character, ethical. Um, I guess that would be it. Um, I think I could go on, but I think you get the idea.
Right. Right. And what kind of student, I guess, wouldn't be a good fit at the Sacred Heart School of Montreal?
Well, that's a good question. I think we're open to accepting all girls. I think if 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 the values and the mission fit with a family and the girls' values and mission, I think we're good for all girls because we have a lot of layers of support. It's that small school environment. But one thing I would say, we have a demanding academic program as well. It can be rigorous at times. On top of that, we want our girls to have the full experience. We strongly believe that the academics are the line in the sand. Every great school should have a strong academic program. That goes without saying, but we want them to be involved in the life of the school, extracurricular activities, sports, debating, robotics. And we're asking a small group of girls to do a lot of things to get that experience. So the one thing for sure, we'll help kids get organized. We'll help them with time management, executive functioning skills, and they can do it. But the family has to be committed to. It's a true triangle. It's a three-way partnership. It's a triangle of commitment between the parents, the child, and the school. So if the child doesn't have enough support from home, um, it could be tough because between the academics and the social community service and extracurricular activities, it could be hard. But we work through that. It's not everybody shows up and they just fit in perfectly, but we do have lots of layers of support. We have lots of our admin team. We have personal counselors. We have academic advisors and counselors, and everybody works together to support every child. But the family support has to be there.
Right. And so what would you say to parents, you know, as you say, some of your families, both parents are working. Um, there's not a whole lot of time, and we're seeing
Yeah.
that more now than ever. Uh, what would you say to a parent that is perhaps nervous about their added time commitment to the community of the Sacred Heart?
Yeah, well, that's another great question. It's first of all, it's high school. We're high school only, so we're there with lots of support. But we're also trying to develop the girls into independent, autonomous learners. So we're not doing them a service if we're spoon feeding or babying them. We're there to support them, and we'll have lots of layers of support. So we don't think parents have to be that involved in their child's development. They just have to be supportive to the point where they encourage them to do these things. They encourage them to persevere. And we always welcome. We have a very open door policy. We have a very, very active and supportive parents guild. And so we always welcome people to come in and help at the school in any way they can. But we always say, what you can give, whether it's in terms of donating or it's in terms of time. It's what you can do at this time. And we always say, just do your best. But your daughter has to have the love and moral support that she needs after a long day of learning and helping and volunteering and playing sports. You need to have people that are there to make sure they're behind, they're committed. But it comes in varying degrees because some people at certain times of their life and careers are just too busy. And we're very used to working with families where both parents have full careers. So, you know,
Right.
a lot of strong mothers want to bring their daughters to all girls schools to develop strong young women later.
Right.
So we're used to it. It works, but you gotta be committed.
And you mentioned lots of layers of support. What are those layers of support that you're talking about?
Well, just for a school of 230 students, we have five senior administrators that form our leadership team. Our director of academics is pretty well tracking every single student. She's the go-between. She's a support. She works very closely and very well with the teachers. And then we have an academic advisor, someone or an accommodations advisor. Some of our students have personal educational plans, so they get accommodations for assignments and tests. She works with them. We have another counselor or advisor that works with the students on executive functioning or time management skills. And we have a full-time student life director who's involved just in student life, because we have a very active student life program, a lot of leadership programs, a lot of we do a lot with CAIS, and so we have someone doing that full time, the non-academic side of a student's life, and just every support staff, every administrative assistant or secretary, the registrar, the admissions clerk, everybody knows the kids by name, and they're always there to lend a helping hand.
Mm.
So it's that small school community environment.
And in terms of staff, is what's the turnover like? Have people been there a long time? Are there people that
Yes.
are new?
Very, very long time.
Mm.
We have attrition every year, about 2 to 3 staff members a year, most through retirement. But the faculty and staff is very, very stable. And a lot of our faculty, we have 26 full-time faculty. I'd say 15 of them have been with us their whole careers. And every year, like I say, there's 2 or 3 that retire, and then 2 or 3 new people get hired, and they spend a lot of time with us. Very rarely do people leave us to go somewhere else.
Right.
It's really rare.
And in your time as the head of school, has there been a challenge that you've sought out to fix, or a surprise that that you had to overcome?
Yes, I've had a few. We'll leave COVID-19 aside. Yes. In general, when I started, what was happening, there was all the elements of a perfect storm, at least in Quebec, and there were language and eligibility laws that were suddenly tightened, so it made it harder for young people to have access to our school. We're an English language school, so there's eligibility issues even today. There was a real drop just in general in the demographics, the student body. So we went from a school that was averaging about 350 students a year to one that came all the way down to less than 200. So I didn't know that, but it was happening to other schools too, but it was a little more drastic at our school. So we had to rebuild enrollment, and we changed our approach, and we made ourselves more of a smaller school environment that were more nurturing and more interested in the development of the whole child, maybe, and more one-on-one with families, made them more of an active partner in the learning process. So now we're at 230 students, which is a good number for us. It's not completely full, but it's our ideal numbers, about 225 to 250. So 230 is just right. We expanded and started recruiting international students. So we were a boarding school for many years until the 1970s. We had a whole section of our school that was basically boarded up. It was the boarding section. We reopened the boarding, and this year we had 18 students in boarding, international students, 17 international. We had one from Newfoundland, but we kind of reinvented ourselves a bit, and that was a pretty big challenge. And the other big challenge, which I'm so grateful for today, is 7 years ago, we did our first ever Canadian accredited independent school, CAIS, a full accreditation. And it was a challenge, and it was a lot of work, but we found we were lagging in technology, and we're quite quite far behind most private schools, and we really jumped in to address that. And I keep saying over and over, and I haven't even told CAIS this yet, but thankfully we did, because we went from a very low technology to we got on Google's Google Classroom, Google Education. We got every student a Chromebook. It's part of they must have they must have a Chromebook when they enter the school. And thank God, because going through the COVID, we were able to switch to online learning within hours, and it's been going really well. And I think to myself, 7 years ago, if we didn't have that accreditation, we might not have addressed our technological needs. So we've come a long way there. It was a big challenge, but I'm very proud of it. And our team really responded well 7 years ago, and to the COVID this year.
And what, as an English language school in Quebec, what about the English language? I guess what about this school would a family want to have? Why would someone choose an English language education in Quebec?
That's great question. And first, I should, if I may, as long as you've been one of the parents of the child has been educated in English in Canada, they're eligible to come to our school. So anybody from Canada, if they've had English education, their children would be eligible to come to our school. The reason they'd want, because one of the things, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of school, but the English schools have worked very hard to be as bilingual as possible and to have as strong a French program as possible, because we know we're the minority, and we know this is a must in Quebec. And most English-speaking families, purely English families, both parents English, speak English at home, mother tongue, they still want a strong French second language for their children. And English private schools in Quebec offer that. And our French programs are much stronger than the French private schools' English programs, because the French private schools are the majority, the vast majority of immigrants and Francophones go to French private schools. So they all teach English, but not to the extent we teach it. So a family is coming to us, they want their children to still master English, even though if they're both English speaking at home. They want the reading and writing, they want the literature, they want the richness, the academic rigor in English, because virtually all of our girls are going to go to McGill or Concordia University or University of Toronto, or they'll go down to the Maritimes and go to Dalhousie or St. Mary's, but they're going to go to English. Now, a lot of our kids are bilingual and could go to French university. Some do. But the reason they want to come to our school, they want that English education, but they also know they're going to get a strong second language French.
Right. And for international students, now that you've reinvigorated the boarding aspect of Sacred Heart, what's the benefit for someone who has every boarding school in Canada to choose from?
That's a great question. One of the things is we're very unique. We're not a boarding school. We're really a day school that has a small boarding program, but we're right downtown Montreal. And Montreal is a very cosmopolitan, multicultural city. It's a very popular city. There's just great variety of food and cultural activities and entertainment. So the people really love it, because we have a strong, always have had a strong Chinese community. So the Chinese people feel there's a connection there, but we have a lot of strong cultural groups that are represented in Montreal. So people really feel the diversity is nice, and it's a safe city. It's not too big. It sometimes likes to act big, but Montreal's still not that big. It's still a smaller city. So, and our school's right downtown, but it's in a safe place. We're literally 1 minute walk from Concordia University and a 3-minute walk from McGill University. So it's a very educational area. There's 5 other private schools within walking distance of ours. So the whole area, the corridor is very academic, and people like the feeling. And I mean, we have great schools and boarding schools all over Canada. It's just another option. It's
Mhm.
another option.
And have there ever been any issues about being a downtown school that
No.
comes with being in a city?
Well, to tell you the truth, it still worries me because we are downtown. We're not though. It's funny. We're just far enough removed from the main the beaten path, so we're kind of up on the hill. We're on Mount Royal on the hill, so we're just minutes away from the universities, but still not right in the thick of things. But I still think about it. We have good security. We have great security at the school. We have a security guard lives at the school. So, but there hasn't been any issues. Knock on wood, and I don't expect there will be. But it is a unique situation. Our school is quite unique.
Right, right. And if you asked a student to describe their day, what would that entail?
Oh wow. A day student or a boarding student or
Let's go day student.
yeah. Well, I think they'd have a commute. Many of our kids now take public transit, trains, planes, and automobiles, I call it. So they'd probably tell you they got into the school. When they get in, our kids get in early. We start at 8:25. Most of our girls are in by 7:45. So there's a lot of chatter and just socializing. The day kicks off. Then halfway through the morning, we have a general assembly 3 days a week and a homeroom. And there's a lot of action, small classes. So the teachers know the students really well. The students know their teachers well, know each other well. But it's action packed, I'd say. I'd say it's action packed. Every lunch hour, there's something going on. There's extracurricular, there's intramural sports in the gym, or there's students getting help. After school rarely ends before 6 o'clock because there's always something. There's a club, an activity, or there's a sport going on. And again, we're a small school, so our girls are involved in multiple activities. Most of them are.
Right,
So they would tell you, most of them would tell you, it's action packed, and I'm tired at the end of the day.
right.
And then I have homework.
And how do students manage to balance all of these activities and as well as a rigorous academic program?
Yeah, it's just again, there's lots of support in the classroom. Um, we have now with the technology, even before we've gone into forced online learning, a lot of our athletes in that, if they have early dismissals or they're missing for whatever reason, now all the lessons are online. They can get their teacher's notes. They can communicate directly with their teacher. So I think they just work really hard. And the ones that are involved in those activities, they just love those. I mean, I've got kids that are great athletes, but they're also in the drama program because they love theater. And it's in a bigger school, sometimes you're not going to have all those opportunities. At our school, most of the time, if you show up for something, you're going to be on it. You're going to be in it or on the team. You just have to give your best effort. That's all that we ask.
And what advice would you give to parents who are in the middle of their private school search right now?
Oh wow. Be diligent, especially today with the technology. You don't have to go to 10 open houses. You can do research online. I'd say start with that, get your idea, but really look at a school's mission. And there's lots of catchy catchphrases, and there's slogans, and there's but look at their real mission, and if they're living it. And then, I mean, to me, the best form of advertising for us and the best information for a prospective parent is word of mouth. Find people that have gone to the school and preferably are going there now, and ask all the questions, the right questions, not just yeah, it's a great academics. Oh, they have lots of sports, but do they return your emails? Do they answer your phone calls? Do they help your daughter when she's not at the top of the class? How do they treat kids that are struggling? And so I'd say it starts online because you can't go to every school. So try and narrow down your search, really focus on mission statement and make sure it fits with your values, and
Okay.
be open-minded. Be open-minded, because sometimes people will say, I never ever thought I'd send my daughter to an all-girls school until I heard about your school. I thought I'd check and love the place. And sometimes people will tell you, I love my experience. I love visiting your school, but it's not our fit, we don't think. Or the other school we looked at seems like a bit better fit, and that's okay too.
Hmm.
But try and ask people. I mean, we're going to tell you all our strengths and all our highlights, but try and ask someone that's going to the school, I think,
Okay.
is the best advice I can give.
And is there a red flag you would warn parents to look out for that they might not maybe think of off the top of their head?
At our school?
For in any school that they're looking
Oh,
into.
oh boy, that's a good point. Well, you know what? If they don't greet you warm and kind, like, I don't mean they have to fall all over you and roll the red carpet out, but if people aren't, you know, taking time to greet you properly when you come to their school for whatever reason, and they're not welcoming you and looking you in the eye and shaking your hand, I'd be worried about that. I think every single person that ever comes to our school, I want them to be treated warmly and respectfully, and no matter who they are or who they're looking for, whether they're a form of a future parent or not. So I would see how you're greeted and treated, and go from there. I don't know if there's any other red flags that I could think of.
I think that's great. That's a good answer.
Thank you, Carly.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
I love our kids. I've known you for a long time, and I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to have this interview. Thank you very much.